Alright, g'day guys and welcome back today to another Obsidian video. Today we're going to be looking at how to manage combat using Obsidian. Obviously managing combat is a pretty significant part of the process of managing a tabletop RPG game. And it's usually something that, requires probably the most strenuous sort of tracking at the table because there's a lot of things going on. You've got players throwing information once they're rolling their dice. You're obviously rolling dice yourself for the monsters. You're keeping track of everyone's health and status abilities and all that sort of stuff. So being able to manage combat quickly and efficiently is a really vital step. I've previously used tools like Hero Lab Classic or Improved Initiative to manage my combat, but they've always been external tools that are third party to my campaign manager. Well, probably with the exception of Hero Lab Classic. I mean, that did trigger from inside of Realmworks, and I really liked that. But Improved Initiative was completely separate. And what that meant basically was that when you're prepping your work, with something like Improved Initiative, you kind of had to prep your encounters in advance in Improved Initiative, or you had to manually add those monsters to the combat as that combat was starting. And it was kind of just a little bit impactful on your workflow, and it slowed you down a little bit. So anyway, today we're going to be looking at a plugin called Initiative Tracker. It's another one by Jeremy Valentine. As I said, the man's a god amongst the Obsidian space, creating all the tabletop RPG plugins. If you've got a few dollars to spend, I would significantly suggest you should jump over and buy that man a coffee, and there'll be links to that in the description below. But he's creating some really cool functionality for us, and Initiative Tracker is just one of those tools that I think just makes Obsidian stand up as one of the best campaign managers on the market as of right now. So without further ado, let's jump over and have a look. Alright, so in front of me you can see I've got Demo Vault 2 running, and down here I've got some examples that I've pre-made for us on basically different initiative trackers and combats. And ultimately what they're doing, well actually I'm just going to click this button here, I'll click this little sword and begin the encounter. Initiative Tracker is got this little dice symbol over here, and we can see there's an initiative tracker. So first things first, let's just go through and install it. So we're going to go settings, we're going to go community plugins, we're going to go browse, we're going to look for initiative. Alright, and you'll see there's two versions here. The one I'm looking at is the one by Jeremy Valentine. This is the original. Primarily this was initially designed for managing 5th edition or D&D 5th edition combat. But obviously it's actually not very specific into the system, if I'm completely honest. It doesn't even require that much data in order to work. But there is another fork of this, so you can see Björn Schinkel here has created the generic initiative tracker. Basically he's just trying to simplify it and take a number of sort of the D&D 5th edition sort of flavors out of it and create something a little bit more generic. But up to you which one you install. I'm going to be working with Initiative Tracker, the original by Jeremy Valentine. Again, there should be a button here for install. Go ahead and install it, and then there'll be a button here for enable. So make sure you go and enable it. As with all plugins, have a read of the README, because this is where you're going to get your examples on how to utilize this thing. So you can see here there's some text on how to create encounters in notes. There's instructions on here on how to launch your encounters. You can see there's different variations of how the encounter blocks can be created. You can add them into tables. There's parameters for creating these things. There's how to set your players up and how to set your creatures up. So there's a whole heap of really useful information here, and I do recommend that you take the time with all of your plugins to read through and have a look. Alright, now I've used this pretty extensively at this point, so what we need to do first is we need to set our players up, and you can see I've got Bob and Fred in this one. So if we come down here to Initiative Tracker, once it's installed the settings will be here, and you can see here I've got Bob and Fred. Now what you can do to add your players is you click this add player button, you come in here, you can link it to a note. So if we link this to Dad, well, link it to Dad, you can see the name comes over from that note that contains Dad. Dad's going to be level 15, his hit points is 20, his armor class is 15, and his initiative modifier is +2. Alright, so that's pretty simple. We save that, and we now have Dad in the list as well. So obviously the first part of setting this plugin up is that you go through and you add all of your players. And look, there is going to be a little bit of work here for you to obviously keep track of this. At the start of each game, or when your players level up, you need to make sure that one of the things you do is you come in here and you edit your players, you update their level, their max hit points, and their armor class, and their initiative modifier, just to keep it flowing with your party as they level up. So it shouldn't be that hard. Now, another thing that you need to do is you need to have monsters available in this tool. And if you've watched my previous video on TTRPG stat blocks, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't watched that video, please do go back and watch that video, alright? Because that's going to go through how to add all of the monsters into your configuration. Same with the video on Dice Roller. Please do go back and watch that one as well, because Dice Roller is it's a prerequisite, I guess you would say, for some of the functionality that this tool is using. I do believe you can not have Dice Roller installed, but you're going to get a better experience if it is installed. So again, make sure that's set up. So if we go back to Initiative Tracker, pretend that you don't have the TTRPG stat blocks installed. You can go through and import monsters using these options here. It's using the exact same files and method that I showed you in the TTRPG stat block video, so if you need to know how to do this, go back and watch that one. And if you've done that through here, you're going to have a list under here of all the monsters. Now, I don't have that, and the reason I don't have that is because my monsters are installed in TTRPG stat blocks. You see them, they're all down here, there's copious amounts of them. And what I've done is I've used this option here to sync with my monsters. So I've got 2,556 monsters that have been synced. Display encounter difficulty, I have that turned on. There's an option here to roll equivalent creatures together. So if you want to roll all of your goblins together, for example. Your initiative formula, obviously align that with the system that you play. For me, that's D&D 5th edition, so it's already entered. Integrate with Obsidian leaflet. This is an interesting thing that actually has a I'll enable it, we'll show you it, but it's effectively like a combat manager, I guess, or a VTT. Very simple one, but it works. Alright, once we've got all the settings turned on, we can then basically get out of here. Alright, so the first thing we need to go through is how do we create an encounter? And we know from the help file that there's text that we need to create an encounter. What I've done is I've got one of those examples here. Alright, we'll just... Actually, I'm going to just increase the size of the font a little bit just so you guys can see what I'm typing. There we go. Alright, so you can see that this is a normal encounter block. And what this is saying is it's an encounter. This is my encounter name. So I can tell it whatever I want. And then how many creatures are in my encounter. So I've got 3 goblins in here. I'll change that to 2 for now. Alright, we'll go back into edit mode. We can see that that's updated. So I've got the players, Bob, Fred and Dad. Alright, I've got 2 creatures, and I can validate that I've linked to a monster properly by actually coming here and holding my mouse over. If I see the XP pop up, that's an indication to me that this has actually grabbed that monster successfully. And just to show you what it looks like if you don't do it properly, if you put the wrong monster name in there, you see it doesn't grab that. Alright, so that's an indication that you've not actually linked to a monster. Some of you might be having questions and say, well, I need to know what a monster's name is in order to link to it. What's the monster's name? If you need to do that, you can either go in, depending where you've got your monsters installed, whether it's Initiative Tracker or TTRPG stat blocks. Mine is TTRPG stat blocks. And if I need to look up a monster, I can just look it up in here. I can actually click on edit, and the name up here is what you need to sort of copy. And then when you come back to your initiative tracker, you can say, I'm going to paste that in, and then that will then link to that. And basically the core functionality of this is that we over here, we have a initiative tracker. All right, so this is very simple. You can see it's got my players in there already. We can see their health pool. We can see their AC. All right, so it's very, very simple. Over here, we can see their initiative, and you can see that the initiative rolls automatically. Some people won't want to do this. I personally am quite a fan of using automatic initiative rolls. I find it's something that just speeds the table up. But it really depends on your player. Obviously, ask them how they feel about it, right? Like, are they happy for you just to go begin combat and initiative is rolled for both the players and the monsters at the same time, or begin combat, they all roll their initiative, and then you can actually click on the initiative and say, well, that's the result, and then this guy rolled an 18, for example. Like, you could just go through and manually add that, and you can see it automatically realigns the players how it goes. But just to run you through basics of a combat. Alright, so combat starts. We come across the 2 Orc Eye of Gromishes. We click begin encounter. Over here, initiative is rolled automatically. Again, if your players were rolling initiative, this would be where you would actually come in here and you would change their initiative modifier. Or if you wanted to actually roll your monster ones manually as well, you could certainly do that in here. Where in round 1, the initiative is called the Goblin Fight. It's worth 900 XP. We can see here that the top line is the health, the bottom line is the AC. Alright, so right now, Dad's rolled the highest initiative, he goes first. Alright, he rolls his attacks. You can see the stats if I click it. He rolls his stats and he calls out across the table that he's done 15 damage to one of these guys. Alright, so I click on the guy that is damaged. I type in how much damage he's done. I press enter and it updates automatically. Dad's turn is over, so we go next. It's now the Orc's turn, and we can just click on the Orc and see the stat block there, and you know, how cool is that? Alright, that is just so much easier in order to get this thing sort of into your deal there. So I can just quickly come up here and say, alright, Orc deals an extra 4, blah blah blah, this is how much damage he does. He hits back at Dad, doing 7 damage. Dad takes some damage. It's now this guy's turn over, so we go to the next guy. Alright, and obviously this just keeps going around and round. We can say this guy here, he doesn't like Bob, so he's actually done a special attack. We can click this icon here, go add status. We could say that he's frightened that guy. Alright, and you can see we get this little status effect up here as well. So, super simple. Bob then goes. Alright, we can go to Bob. He then hits this guy, and you know, he whacks back. I know he's frightened, but you know, just for the sake of it. He drops this guy to 0. We can actually then come up here and add status and say he's unconscious. Alright, and I think from memory, if we were to do 50 damage here, what about another 50? I think he's dead automatically. I did have it pop up yesterday somehow, so it actually automatically allowed me to select what had happened to him when he went to 0. But obviously unconscious is a great way to handle that. Down the bottom here, we can actually see it's automatically calculating the challenge rating of this encounter, so that's really handy. If we need to add more people into the fight, we can do that through here. Alright, so you can quickly add your own custom things into here. But also over here, there's new functionality, and a huge thanks to Jeremy, because he's actually added this as a request from myself. But now we can actually say plus, right? So if I wanted to add, say down here I've got a different encounter block, 3 goblins and 1 hobgoblin, I can actually go plus. Alright, and that automatically gets added to that combat as well. So you can sort of add backups, and I don't think I've got it here, but one thing I've been doing is I've been creating monster notes. So just like I replicate the monster manual, for example, I have 1 page per monster, and in that what I'm doing is I'm creating a stat block. You know, let's say for example I'm creating a actually let me just see if I can bring over an example, and this isn't going to be perfect, guys. This is going to be lacking in any pictures. Managing combat, we'll go a new note. This is a dragon wing from Horde of Dragon Queen. Again, I don't have the picture over here, so you know, that's just a thing. But what I can actually do, I do love that you can right click on pictures and go show in System Explorer. And if I drag that over to here and then get rid of that, that'll add that, and boom. Didn't work. Oh well. The idea was there. Let's just catch this up, just for the sake of it. we'll get rid of this. Alright, so all I'm doing here is I'm just replicating what my monster stat block looks like. You know, this is all you really need to do. So you can see I've got a nice picture. I've got the show to players here. Actually, I just want to get rid of that. So show to players on my monster, so I can go. Don't have that mod installed, but Jeremy's got another plugin that allows you to show to players, which is cool. This is the TTRPG stat block, so you can see all the monsters that are there. But then down the bottom, I've got my encounter. Alright, and this is where it's really important, because what I can do, the players encounter a dragon wing who charges forward and attacks them. Alright, so I've got a little bit of text there. I can use my outgoing link section to automatically detect where I need that link to exist. And now I've got this here, and I can scroll down and I can go click plus to encounter. So if we come down, I've now got a dragon wing. So if I have a note for every single monster entry, then all I need to do is obviously write about that monster in my prep notes and have this encounter block in there, and I can now add as many of these as I need to combat. So that's just one workflow that you can use for this, and I think that's really cool. So just a heads up on that. Now, once I've finished my my combat, we can go through and show you how the round tracking is obviously working there as well. You can just hit this button here. There's options in here for reroll initiatives. There's options in here for group creatures. But there's also new encounter, so you can just reset it once your fight's finished and reset everything back to normal. You can reset your initiative when your parties have a long rest as well. So again, that's pretty simple, right? It's very easy to use. So for me, the next part of this though really comes into, well, how do I display all these encounters in my text? So if we come down here, we've got this one here, which obviously we've been through. That's nice and simple. That's a very easy one. Just so you know, you can just press enter. You can go 5 goblin, and notice that when I put 5, there's a plural now, so there's more than one. It adds the S automatically. So just type goblin, it'll add the S automatically. Alright, but there's other ways to do this. So let's have a look at this one here. So this is an encounter table. Actually, we'll do this one as a table. Let's change this to a table. We just type /table on the end of encounter. Alright, and that changes it to look like this. Alright, now I really like this version. It takes up less real estate on my screen. And when I put it into my modular, it looks quite good. I can see what the name of the encounter is, and I use this to put instructions for the fight in sometimes. Here, obviously, we can see the creatures, we can see the players, the difficulty, and we can launch the encounter and add to the encounter. So I like this table. Thank you, Jeremy, for adding this in. This is really cool. Something else we can do if you've got the dice roller plug-in is we can say 2d6 worth of these guys, and that now adds a dice roller to there. So we can click 12, we can now begin encounter, and that adds 12 of these guys in, right? Like, how cool is that for creating a random encounter? Potentially dangerous, you know, that's a deadly encounter, but you know, good luck to them. Note that difficulty doesn't obviously update there. I do wonder what would trigger that, but you know, all good as far as I'm concerned. Now there's another way you can do these, and if we come down here to this one here, we'll take this off. You can do multiple encounters. So what this is one encounter block. Alright, and then it's got the separator here of the dash dash dash. Alright, it's not an underscore, it's a dash. And then you can put another encounter block down here. This can be a different encounter block. So let's go 1d20 goblins. And what I do, this is challenging, this is easy, for example. And then you can see here that this now makes an easy encounter and a challenging encounter. So we can see the difference, we can see how much XP it's worth, we can see the 10, we can roll that. Alright, and then we can obviously launch that using our commence combat button. So that's really cool. And obviously just a note on how this looks, guys. It might look different on your screen, you might be using different plugins and things. Again, I've got another video on that if you guys want to see how that works. I'm using the alternative ITS theme, which is fantastic. It's got some great D&D looks and feels to it. Now that's one method, but again that takes up a lot of screen real estate, so I'm kind of starting to lean towards this. I think this is really cool. Down here we can have an encounter. What I've actually been doing is using dice like this. Right, that takes it into a dice. We've got a 1d2. So now I've got a dice roll up here that allows me to roll on my table. Alright, and then I can actually have those linked in here as well. Alright, you can see I can have different goblins, you can have customs. Fantastic. Alright, what's the next one? So obviously whenever you've got a table, by the way, you can set up so that you've got a identifier for that table. And then using the dice roller, if you want to see how I do this, but you can obviously watch the dice roller video on how to use this properly, but we can add in a dice line. The first section is the name of the note, so managing combat. Alright, then we have a hash to say we're going deeper into that file to grab something else, and then we do the up score there, and that's basically just pointing to this. And then what that will then do is that will bring in the ability to have dice on here, and then you can click this and it will begin combat. So that's fantastic. Alright, then down here they've just got some settings on how to do this in a different way. Now there is one that I'd like to show you. Just give me a sec. Green rest. I did make, here we go, a more advanced table. Because what you've seen so far is basically an encounter that turns itself into a table. But what you can also do is create your tables manually. And we just need to update this snippet here so it points to the right place. There we go. And now that's pointing to this table down here. And of course you don't need this line of text to actually stay in this note. You can go to another note and copy paste this and it will work. But you can see in here what I'm doing is that, technically this is that as well, but I'm writing this single line encounter file. Now this is a new method that Jeremy's added for us. Again, huge thanks to Jeremy for this. It's just, instead of basically writing it down the screen on different lines, you're writing it across. So you can see encounter 6 kobolds, encounter 3 kobolds and 1 ambush drake. But what I really like about this is when you put it into a table, is that you don't actually have excuse me, you don't actually have to always have an encounter. You can have some of your lines on your random table actually just sort of have text that references to what's occurring in this space. So in this case here, these are all encounters, but this one here is just saying, 4 townsfolk be hunted by raiders, roll a dice to determine the raiding group. So again, I'm rolling on this table, so I get 6 kobolds, I click begin encounter, and off we go. Like, how easy is that, right? It's just, you're here, you're in combat, people are rolling dice, you're updating, combat's over, you reset, and you're back to reading your text. It's all in the one place. If you need to obviously look up any stat blocks for any monsters, you just click them. Like, it's just all right here. Like, seriously, Jeremy, well done. And to the guys over at Improved Initiative, if they ever watch this, actually, like, hats off to you guys, because I know you guys did this first, really. You made this functionality here, but having it inside of Obsidian is just, love it. Now, it can go a little bit more advanced. If we go into, where is it? Initiative tracker, go into the settings, scroll down here. Where did I see these ones here? Let's just put this in. Just going to put a break line and put our new encounter table. And of course that didn't work. Oh, it didn't work because I've pasted it, and when you paste it adds these additional extra sort of start and stop things. Alright, so this is basically a way you can change things. So in this case here, we've got an encounter. Alright, we can put a name in here. Challenging Goblin. Alright, we can see that there's a My Monster with instructions on how to do this. You know, My Monster's not going to actually link to anything, but if you did have a monster, you'd saved it into the homebrew when you made that monster. Again, check out my last video. Then you could link to it. But here you can see we can actually modify this. Alright, so we're adding in a goblin. It's just one goblin. He's got 7 HP, so comma 7. His AC is 15, and then comma 2 will be the mod. So what we can do, this can actually be a really challenging goblin. He's got 14 and he's got 20 AC. And boom, we go back into here and we can see that this guy now has 20 AC and these guys don't. So we can click start. Alright, we've got one goblin with 20 AC, 14 health. Alright, you can see how much more challenging you can do that. So that's one way you can obviously just quickly modify monsters in order to give them sort of a different challenge rating. And you can see here, by the way, that when you click on this, it's overriding that file completely. So it gives you the rest of the stat blocks with the modified sort of components that you've added to that. So yeah, again, very useful. Just a note on this, that this is only supported in this style. It doesn't actually work in the tables. Well, sorry, it does work in the tables, but it doesn't work up in here in the single line. Alright, so you can see that works, but it doesn't work when you do this here. Alright, you can't write a single line of that. So yeah, anyway, look, that's Initiative Tracker. It's probably one of the best plugins, I think, that's currently available to us. And as you can see, once you combine all of these sort of things together, it really gives you a lot of functionality. What's that option? Oh, group creatures, expand creatures. I was just thinking, there is the... where is it? There is the option in here to send this out to the... like the VTT. Did I turn that on? Let's just have a look. Open with Obsidian Leaflet, integrate with Obsidian Leaflet and display maps on combats on maps. And I can't see the option in front of me right now, but I do know there is a way. So anyway, what this does, by the way, is it opens up. Let's add creature. It opens up like a little screen with a little, just a default map on it, and you can certainly sort of you know, do your own sort of map. You can upload your own maps, but effectively what it does is it just allows you to move people around a map so you can keep track of where people are. Again, I'm not experienced with it because I don't use it. I've got a full digital TV table, so I have a proper VTT on that using Arkenforge, and I use that to obviously manage my combat. So, I wonder if there's anything up here that I'm missing. Doesn't look like it. I feel like it's like one of those things that was right in front of me at one point, and now I just can't see it. So, anyways, all good. That is the Initiative Tracker, guys. Hopefully you can see the value in that, especially if you're playing 5th edition. You can see that it's really easy to manage your combat, so hopefully that's been useful for you. Anyway, guys, again, another big hats off to Jeremy. Thank you for everything you do, mate. We really appreciate it. If you are watching this video and appreciate everything Jeremy does, please do use the links in the description below to buy the man a coffee. It certainly helps keep him on track, making even more cool plugins for us and making changes to the plugins that you need. If you do need support for any of Jeremy's plugins, then the place to find him is in the official Obsidian Discord channel. Inside of that, there is a group of people, sorry, a group called the, where is it? Tabletop Games, down here, alright? and you can see Javelin is very active inside of here. So certainly go through and join the official Discord. If you ever need help with plugins, or you just want to have some suggestions on plugin changes or new plugins that need to be made, then that is absolutely the place to hang out. Keeping in mind though that Obsidian is not just for TTRPG players. There is a huge number of people using Obsidian for all sorts of different things, and people are using it for work and medical notes and university tracking, and like, it's crazy what people are doing. And I think that's where the real benefit comes, right, is that this is not a tool that's going to go away just because these people will go out and find real jobs. Like, this is supported by a community of people who have multiple users for this application, which again means it's something that we can rely on being here for a long time going forward, I think. So yeah, anyway, if you're enjoying this content, please do like and subscribe using the links below. A huge special thanks to all of my supporters on Patreon. If you guys, especially if you're playing 5th edition, if you want to see or have access to all of my templates and see all of my code, then you can get that through my Patreon. So if you'd like to sign up over there, feel free to do so. And yeah, hopefully that'll be of help to you. So anyway, guys, hope you have a great day, and I'll speak to you all on the forums.